Hello and welcome. So, I've been into K-pop since summer 2020, which is not 15 years ago, but it's not that recent either, and I felt like debut ages were getting younger and younger. I'm very curious and I like using Excel as a hobby, and I wanted to see the stats by myself. So I spent months doing it by hand, and I thought it could be fun to do something to share all that data. This video will be the first one from a short series of 2 or 3 videos, depending on how I write the next one, about what I think of underage idols, because I can't see myself posting videos about K-pop while ignoring the elephant in the room. This first video will be only about the stats themselves, without my opinion which is more or less than all of this is deeply evil. Part 1. The process. So, before showing the actual stats, I'll explain my process. Since my original question was, are debut ages getting younger since I got into K-pop, I decided to focus on 4th and 5th gen. Since these are the commonly agreed upon dates, I put 4th gen between 2018 and 2022, only including the boyz from late 2017, since they were nominated for 2018 Rookie Awards, and 5th gen from 2023 until now, except 2026 since it barely started, so it will be quite meaningless. Then I opened Excel and I created a table with the following columns: group name, debut years, ages of all members at debut, type, boy group, girl group or co-ed, average debut age, median debut age, amount of underage members and ratio of underage members. I know math isn't for everyone, so I'll explain better when showing the stats. I put underage as strictly under 18. I've seen some people say in South Korea it's 19, but I did some research and Koreans can vote at 18 and can enlist at 18 too. To get a list of groups, K-Profiles has a page that lists K-pop groups by debut years. I'll cross-reference that list with the K-pop fandom wiki, which has a similar page. I put both links in the description. I quickly realized there were a lot of groups I couldn't include for a few reasons that are admittedly very subjective, which I'm going to explain right now. 1. No soloists or duos, because I wanted to get centered on just groups. 2. No subunits, so for example for Triple S, it means I put their ages during the Assemble 23 or Assemble 24 albums and not during their subunits. The only unit I added is NCT Wish, because it debuted way later than everyone else, and in that group, subunits function as a separate group long term. They usually promote alone, etc. 3. No part group re-debuts like viviz, loossemble or ablume, and no re-debut with exactly the same members. I did add sort of re-debuts if most of all members are different like blackswan, madein and 50/50. No project group like up, but I counted groups promoting for at least a while like izone and zerobaseone. No band like Extraordinary Heroes, no ballad group, trot group, vocal group. No virtual group like Plave, and no fictional group from a series. No busking group or dance group or Twitch streamers, etc. that release one single one day for some reason, and no comedy gag group. No independent underground live group, because it's a whole other thing. I respect their craft, but they're not like in the midst of the evil industry, if that makes sense. No group without enough ages known. For very new groups, sometimes there is like one birthday known, so I added them only if at least 3 ages were known. No group branding themselves as a kids group, teenage group. That's a whole other can of worms which I won't directly talk about today. And finally, no group that doesn't define itself as K-pop but has a Korean debut like itzy, and no K-pop adjacent but global group like itzy, hitgs, genBlue, etc. Once I could have an actual list of groups, I simply went on all their individual pages, scrolled through, and added manually each age each member was at their birthday on their debut dates. Side notes, I'm not counting pre-debut releases. If a group releases a pre-debut single in March but actually debuts in July, I count the ages the members were in July. I put the ages of all members, even those who left after debut, but not those who left pre-debut. For members who joined later, I wrote the age they had during the first release when they appeared. In the end, I had something that looked like this. Just a note, there are commas and not points because my Excel is in French. Math tip number 1, ratio. It's the percentage of underage members amongst the total number of members. If you look at the boys on the first line, they have 3 underage members for 12 members overall. It means a quarter of them were underage at debut, so 25%. Math tip number 2, what is the difference between average and median? Let's illustrate with clients at a bakery. So there is me with 30 euros in my pocket, all aespa members with 1,000 euros in their respective pockets, and Taylor Swift with 10 million euros in her pocket. The average money one client in this bakery has in their pocket is 1,667,338 euros. The number is very high because of Taylor Swift, but it's not very representative of what the aespa members and me have in our pockets. Here comes the median. You order the numbers in ascending order. You cut the series in half. Here you get 3 values and 3 values, and the number in the middle is the median. Or like here, if the number of items is even, you do the average between Karina and Ning Ning, but they both have 1,000 euros, so the median number is 1,000. It means half the people in this bakery have 1,000 euros or more in their pockets, or 1,000 euros or less on them. For my kpop stats, for example, if the median age is 18, it means half the members are 18 or more and the other half are 18 or less. Meanwhile, the average can be like 16 if they have a member very young, or 21 if one of them is 30. I'm exaggerating, it's just an example. I hope my explanations help a bit. Part 2, creating the average stats. I wanted to let my dear friends pivot tables do all the work for me. If you don't know anything about Excel, pivot tables allow you to sort out a database in a few clicks. But I quickly realized there will be a problem with averages. Let's illustrate with 3 K-pop acts I just debuted: Bananas, Beans and Lolo. I get a table like this. Then I apply a basic pivot table which gives me this. It looks right. If you sum 18, 20 and a half and 17, divide by 3, you get 19 and a half. But when you sum all numbers separately, 25 plus 24 plus 17, you get 182. Divide by 9, which is the total amount of idols, you get 20.2. Why, you ask me? It's because the pivot table does an average of the average column in my first table, not the average of every individual separately. It caused a problem for me because, for example, you have Triple S with 24 members next to Big Ocean with 3 members, and with the pivot table, each group would have had the same weight instead of doing an average debut of all 27 idols. But Excel can do that for you. I didn't know before that project. I realized later I wasn't even forced to put all ages in different columns, but it was too late, lol. Anyway, what I did was open my data into something called Power Query. I selected all columns that had ages, click on Transform, unpivot selected columns, and you can see now that all ages are neatly separated. Now with that brand new table, I could add this new data into a pivot table of its own, and you can see the 20.2 I found when calculating by hand. Something else I quickly realized is that some new groups had a much higher debut age average. Good for them, but it made me add a last column to my table. Has this group reached 50k sales? Yes, no, which allowed me to sort out groups that were at least a bit out there and exclude groups with 5 monthly listeners who wouldn't be in the larger public eye. I decreased the sale numbers to 20k for 5th gen groups considering they're much more recent. Part 3, the stats. Now I just show the final stats you can pause to read in detail. Important note, the median column is the average of all the median debut ages and not the median debut age of each individual idol. The real reason is that it's too hard for me to do even with Power Query, but also I think it's not nonsense to show it like that. Anyway, here are the stats. 4th gen, all groups. It's the same stats organized differently on the upper side of the screen and the lower side of the screen. Relevant groups of 4th gen. Fifth gen all groups. And then 5th gen relevant groups. And here's a final recap of the average debut age per year. I didn't put the colors manually, Excel did, but I thought it was quite right. Part 4 and final part, conclusion. To my question, are debut ages getting younger since 2020? If you look at all groups, the answer is not particularly. And if you look at relevant ones, not particularly either. In 2025, for relevant girl groups, the average is a lot lower, but I think and I hope it's not the start of a new trend and it was just an exception. I think my feeling came from the fact that I was simply less aware. When I first got into K-pop, I liked Loona and ace. Ace debuted with no underage member. Yuchan, the youngest, was 19. And for Loona, at first I didn't know their ages because, to me, why wouldn't they be all in their early 20s, you know? But then I discovered Yeonjin was not even 18 yet, and naively I thought she was the exception, not the norm. And as time passed, I became more and more aware of so many other groups who had and still have very young members, especially when they debuted with at least some support like newjeans, classy, CSR, or when Girls Planet 999 was airing and people were voting for the 15 years old babies. It really shocked me. All of this will lead to the next part, why is this evil and what to do now. Subscribe if you're interested. I will share in the description some links of websites I use, as well as a script of this video with screenshots as if it was a news article or something, as well as the Excel table with all the data. Feel free to download it and rework the data or whatever, as long as you don't pretend you did the initial job. I'll be back soon with other videos. Bye!